Yeah. Hi everybody, welcome back to Blackheath Flower Club. We thought we would try and give you a spring demonstration to encourage you to start flower arranging. Also, we'd like to say that there are workshops available at Blackheath, at Eltham and at Mottingham Flower Club. So they'll be similar to this. So I thought today that I would show you something with tulips because I've got a bunch of tulips, and strangely enough in this arrangement you take the flowers out of the water for a couple of hours so that they are bendy, because this arrangement involves the flowers being bendy rather than straight, so that's an unusual thing. I'm using a low flat container. This is a really beautiful one that my mum gave me, and it actually goes up a stand as well, so that's why I chose it. But you could equally use a pie dish, a soup tureen, a low tureen, or a Pyrex dish, something that's low and flat. Okay, so in here I've put something called a frog, which is a tiny piece of plastic, and it's stuck to the container with a piece of this stuff it's called Oasis Fix because it's made by Oasis, but it's very sticky, sort of blue tucky stuff that you put underneath, and I keep it inside cling film to keep it dry, otherwise it dries out. And then I put the frog just to the side of the container because the arrangement is going to go around one way and around the other way. It's all based on the side of the container, not the middle. And then I've got a small piece of Oasis which I've cut into a sort of shape that looks like a bridge, a crescent, and I've made it low enough to hide underneath the container, and I'm just taking off the sharp edge here. It's called beveling because it's much easier to put your flowers into a flat surface rather than along that original line. So here's the Oasis going down onto the prongs of the frog to hold it securely. You could equally use a little square block, but I think this works better for the flowers. Okay, and to explain, the tulip will usually grow towards the light, so I'm using some thin wire. You can get thin wire in different colours. I'm using wire to control the bending of the tulip, and you need a piece of wire that's the length of the tulip and a couple of inches or 5 centimetres longer than your tulip. Now, I am just holding the wire very near the end, a bit like a pin, pushing it into the stem and the head to secure it, and then I'm wrapping it around, softly around the tulip, and I'm enclosing the leaves. I'm going to let that one stay as it is, and I'm just going to end it at the end by turning it around and round and round. And I can manipulate it a bit more because the wire is in it. And then that's my first placement, so I'm putting it right down low in the Oasis, and I'm going to use the lowest bits of my Oasis first and then go upwards, so it will become more clear. So all these pieces I've previously cut because it would take too long to wire each one and to show you, so I'll push in a couple and then you'll see what I'm doing. So I'm building them up as I go, and I've done this arrangement before, but you could play around with it however you like. I've decided which colour wire, which colour flower to use to make a nice arrangement. So here's the first bit that I've done, and I'll go on to the other side now. So again, I use my longest flower. In fact, I think this is a tiny bit long. I'll do much the same the other side. So you'll have lots more time than me to play around and have a look and decide what looks best. But this is a demonstration, so we have to do it fairly quickly. Here's the second one around. I forgot to say that I've got no water in this container at the moment. We'll put the water in at the end. And now I'm just going to do some short placements going upwards here, different lengths, because if you use different lengths it's a bit more interesting for your eye to look at. Oh, this turntable's doing things. And I'm going to put one at the back, there, and one towards the front. So that's the main look of what I've done. Now I'm going to add some embellishments. So I have some pussy willow branches that I've cut quite short. I've got a lovely bendy one, so I'm putting that at the back. Use that for some height and it gives it some great texture. Make sure you've taken off all the little flowers down the bottom. You don't want that going into the fern, but just arrange them how you feel. I think I'll keep them quite upright. I don't want it splaying out. I want it quite vertical. Then I've got some flax from my garden. Small pointy bits of flax, and I'm using them in 3 different lengths. So if you put them together, a long one, a medium one, a short one, and then if you bend them where the rib is and cut them, you can use them in the arrangement. I'm going to extend this arrangement. I'm going to extend its lines out a little bit. I think that's quite effective. And I'm pushing the 2 sides of the leaf together to get it in. So here's one side. And I'll do the same on the other, much the same on the other. I've already cut this one. So this is why the piece of oasis was fairly large, because there's quite a lot of material to get in here. I'm just thinking you'd need quite a large table for this arrangement, but I know mine works because mine's going to be raised up a bit. So there's the 2 sides. And now I have to cover up the rest of the floral foam. There's quite a lot of it showing. If you use some of the tulip leaves that I'm going to move this off to the side. If you use some of the tulip leaves that you had left when you cut the flowers off, you can just fold it in half and chop it like this, and you get... Oh, I've chopped it the wrong way. That's interesting. What did I do there? This way. Sorry, people. That way. You chop it that way. You get something that you can use to fill in the spaces on your oasis. I've still got a lot of oasis showing. Floral foam showing, and it's quite nice because the tulip leaves that I've cut short match or fit in with the arrangement. they don't stand out. That's the same when you use, perhaps when you use roses in an arrangement, you use the foliage to go with it. The same with lilies. It's quite useful as a filler and something to cover up your floral foam. I've also got some nice big ivy leaves. I'm going to use these at the back, and I'm going to pin them in with a moss pin. Very simply, you push the leaf up to the stems and push the pin in, and you just overlap the leaf where you want to cover the foam. There it goes. I might do 1 and 2 at the front. And then finally I've got some thick leathery bits of holly, because you can't really use soft spring foliage because it will flop. So I'm using things that are quite leathery and thick. They will last. So almost the last thing to go